What's good, YouTube? Thank you guys so much for joining me in today's video. And in this video, we're going to be talking about surviving and how to consistently do 3,000 damage while being able to, again, stay alive, help your teammates, whether you're playing solo or in a platoon. So I definitely hope you enjoyed this video. So what I want to talk about in this video is how exactly do good players consistently do 3,000 damage while still being able to maintain their health and at the same time being able to consistently improve their statistics, their WNA, their average damage, whatever the case may be. Because ultimately you have to understand that in order for you to get into a good clan, if you're not satisfied with the one you're in, is to be able to produce good amount of damage every single game. You do have to understand that far too often there are bot players in both teams, just because the North American server doesn't have an insane amount of players. So what does that mean to us as players specifically? It allows us to do damage while not having to take any damage in return, because far too often these players are in their 40% ranks. They are very inconsiderate of what's going on around them. They are playing by themselves essentially. That's how they're programmed, right? So you're gonna have to take advantage of that when it comes to these things. You're gonna have to take advantage of the mistakes that the real opponents make, real players like me and a lot of people from good tunes or maybe even clans. And the only way you're gonna be able to do that is if you're gonna essentially hopefully follow the tips and tricks that I'm going to go ahead and give you in this video. So first and one of the most important things for you to understand is for you to get into a good position, right? So a lot of times people tend to hate camping or they hate to play passively. But what you gotta understand is that, like for example, in this map and game in particular, we're playing in mines. Even though I'm not really passive, I'm in a very safe spot because nobody's on the hill. All the TDs are behind the rock that's right in front of me, so therefore they can't shoot me. Their heavy tanks and medium tanks that are literally underneath the hill are getting shot on the side, and I just took out that AMX. So positioning is very crucial. So positioning is what you want to pay attention to. You want to stay away from crossfire, especially if your damage per minute is extremely low. When you're playing, for example, the Sheridan, you gotta understand that your reload is not going to be better than any medium or light tank in this game. Even bat chats or anything like that, they're gonna definitely beat you by damage per minute. So therefore, if you're on a 1v1 fight and you have no support, you can basically call it an end to your round in that particular game. Unless you have more hit points and they have nothing, you are very likely to die. Again, there are certain situations where skill gap is the reason as to why you stay alive, but for the most part, it really just comes down to who's playing the peekaboo game, who's playing kind of carefully. Yeah, you do have to be aggressive in order to do good amounts of damage. Like when you're playing the Sherry or the E1, it's a little bit different in a sense that you don't have to be so aggressive. You can use hills to your advantage and spam missiles, whatever the case may be. But again, position is the #1 priority for you to keep in mind. Second, and probably even more important than the first point that I just gave you, is the mini-map. I mean, I kid you not, people do not look at the mini-map. You're playing in a platoon and this guy's like, oh, let me just stay here, I got 4 tanks on me, we got no support, and then he's expecting you to be the one carrying for him every game. Like, I'm a decent player. I'm not great, but I'm definitely not bad either, because I understand what's going on down here. Down here. I don't know, which way is it? Down there. Because if you're not paying attention to the mini-map, you can have the whole team on you, and you're alone. And it's like, then you're going to complain about your team not helping you, when you're the reason as to why you just died, going separate. And you don't have to agree with your teammates. Don't get me wrong. If they're going somewhere completely stupid, the meta is literally on one side, they're going complete other way, that's fine. Just go with them or go support them or be around them. Because if you're alone, guess what? you're not going to stay alive. And if you do, you better pray nobody goes there, because the only way you're going to survive if you flank and there's nobody there, right? So just keep that in mind. This is one of the games that I wanted to share with you guys. I actually ended up getting a mastery on this map in particular. This is a raiding game as well, which really surprised me because I didn't know you could get masteries in raiding games. So that just kind of shows that there's still a lot of things that I didn't know. But I ended up doing 5.3k damage, having my team done nothing for the most part, except for maybe a couple of people. But look at their team. Their team did pretty well. They have 3 people that almost did 3,000 damage, while we only have 1 person, aside from me, who got even close to that number. So this is the first map. I want to share with you guys a couple of other ones as well. For example, like this map, for example. This was actually a really great game as well. It was a raiding game also, and I'm gonna talk through it, give you guys some tips and tricks on what I do in these situations. Now remember what I said, when you're flanking alone, do not expect to survive if you have nobody around you and you have like 2 or 3 guys coming at you. Because no matter how fast the Sherry may be or whatever tank you're using, you're not going to be able to outrun 3 tanks if you're too far in already in the fight, right? So, and you may kill 1 of them, you may kill even 2 if you're lucky, but the point is you can't rely on anybody, right? It's so annoying when people rely on me when I platoon with them. And I ask you, if you guys are watching this video and you're actually tuning with me sometimes, don't expect me to carry you every time, because that's just impossible. There's only so much that I can do. An individual who's literally got a shit DPM, you can't expect them to carry the whole game every time. It's just not realistic. There are games where you can, but again, you probably have to use missiles, right? But if you don't have a missile tank, then what are you gonna do, right? So, for example, in this game, as you notice, and I'm gonna go ahead and pause this real quick, just so you guys can see this clearly. They have 2 medium tanks, and I'm the only light tank, and we have 1 medium as well. I noticed on the mini-map, and I'm actually showing it right here on the mini-map, they have both mediums spotted, one by the flag and one by the heavy, on the very bottom here on our team. So what does that make me think initially? That makes me think that this flank is completely empty. The only person who may be here is the FV183, but he's not here either, because he's probably helping the heavies, right? At least that's the gamble that I'm taking right there. So I was able to curve that rocket on the standard. He's trying to go in further to support the heavies, but the problem that he has is that he's pushing in way too far too aggressively. Again, with no armor as a medium tank, no turret armor, you kind of want to play, you know, hull down, just stay back beneath, just so that your turret is showing if you do have a good armored medium tank. If you don't have any armor at all, you want to stay as far back from heavies as possible, especially if your team isn't coordinated very well, because their team is so far spread out. I mean, look, you got 2 heavies in the corner, 2 heavies on the other corner, the TD is getting destroyed, literally just getting missiled right there. So it's like everything is so uncoordinated. So there's not a lot of good teamwork there. Again, this was a raiding game, so there's not like platoons or anything, so it's a little bit harder when you're playing solo and you don't really have anybody to help you or rely on. And so the standard, I mean, look what happens. He goes behind the house, gets shot, and boom, he's gone. Just like that. I'm already at 2,100 damage, which, to be honest, when it's 2v2 and it's already at 2,000, that's perfect. Because you still have 5 tanks that you can farm off of, whatever the case may be. And as you'll notice in a lot of these clips, just kind of like a forewarning, there are tanks that teleport, and unfortunately there's nothing I can do about it. It just has to do with the replay and how the game essentially plays the clip back. So you'll see I'm throwing a rocket there, which was really smooth. Again, taking out the K91. Now that it's 4v2, I'm already at 2,400 damage, so I only need realistically 6 more hundred to be at 3k, which is the typical mark you want to set for yourself to do every single game. Doesn't matter what it is, even if it is a loss. Because the one thing you got to understand is don't worry about your losses, because ultimately the only thing that matters in this game, obviously win percentage isn't bad to have a decent percentage wise, but to be honest, top clans care about one thing. They care about your average damage. If you want to get an accursed, doomed, hated, prime RGN, whatever the case may be, you have to show that you can deal damage that your account specifies. Otherwise, it's just going to be pointless, right? So keep those things in mind. Again, damage, positioning, Mini-map, that's what you want to look for. And as you'll notice again, I did 3,800 damage, almost 4,000, 2 games in a row, over 3K. And I'm not saying that's like a big accomplishment, but it certainly is a good thing that it played out this way. Alright, so for this map, man, I love this map. You guys have no idea. The reason I say this is when you're playing a Sherry or an E1 and you got missiles, this is the map. Even for tournaments, whoever's dominating the center area right by where the flag is, in a tourney would be point B, right? So whoever's dominating B or flag in encounter battles, you're literally dominating the whole map. Just because of how crucial that point is. Because if you have B under control, you can easily grab A, and then C is so far isolated with the heavy side that it just doesn't matter at that point. Right? If you have 2 points and you're playing a turn and you're just holding both of them, you don't let them grab B, you're doing just fine. You'll just win on supremacy points or something. Right? But in this particular case, I get in that bush, pop one in, already at 571. And they just spotted me when I'm already behind the rock. So, playing this super passively again, they do not have anybody on my left side, which is perfect because my team is right behind me supporting. E1 is trying to be a little bit sneaky. I do miss my shot because the dispersion on this tank is horrible, right? And that's why I reserve to rockets far more often than regular shells, even if I have to do less damage, because at least that way I know it's going to go through, or I'm at least going to hit the target. So already at 1,000 damage, the FE just gone like that within the first minute, right? And that's the problem. If you're not dominating the crucial points, that's going to hurt you in the end. And again, Centurion just gets shot, boom, and he's gone as well. 2 tanks gone within the first minute and 15 seconds. So, just keep these things in mind. Positioning, and I will make a video in the future where I'm actually talking about where you have to be positioned as a medium tank or a light tank, whatever the case may be, for you to be able to produce the shots that you need to and do the amount of damage that you're looking for. Because there's nothing worse than just being in a bad position, trying to produce that 3K, but you can't, just simply because you're getting shot by everybody in the game, right? And your position may seem like it's okay, but it really isn't. Because there's always, you know, like I'm angling with this tank right now, kind of sloping down on the hill, you know, just to give me a little bit of a better angle for my rocket. And that's the thing. When you're playing a missile tank, the higher the trajectory, if your rocket comes up from like way high, you're going to penetrate that shot 100%. And if not, it's going to be very high chances. But if you're thinking about it, if your rocket is going flat and the tank is like this, and if you're shooting a mouse, unless you're shooting the lower plate, you're not penning that anywhere, right? Maybe the turret, but you got to be in the sniper mode. But anyways, so already at 3.2k with 3 tanks still left alive. Okay, keep that in mind. You have an E1 pushing me at this point in time. Yeah, I'm alone at this point, but it really doesn't matter because my HP is good enough to withstand a couple of shots. He just missed his shot and the game just ends, right? Because he gets shot again. I should have used a high explosive shell here. I wasn't really thinking. I was just keeping him on auto aim, just trying to get that shot in. He gets one in me as well, and that's it. In about 5 seconds, he's dead. So another cool thing. When you're playing for Despair, that little hill right here, that little hill is where you want to be as a light tank. When you're a medium, you want to go corner of the sector 1, because that way you can support your Sheridans, and so then that way they can produce those missiles and shift the game's mechanic a little bit. So here I was trying to do a high explosive shot. Again, didn't want to take the risk of not penning well enough, so I just shot a regular, and then he ended up dying, which ended up being a really good game again. Me dealing over 4,500 damage. I think it was close to 5,000, in fact, 4,900. But you're just kind of being able to like see the stuff that I'm talking about, the games that I'm playing. Again, this was a rating game as well, which gave me 69 points, which I thought was amazing. And then lastly, I wanted, actually, yeah, that's it for now. One thing I'm gonna say is that if you guys are playing and want to get better at this game, do keep in mind that the only way you're going to be able to do that is if you are practicing and learning from your mistakes. If you're playing this game just to play the game and you're not really learning anything from it, it's going to be boring. You're going to get frustrated. You're going to be angry. But if you're keeping important points in mind in a sense that you're improving and you're setting goals to do more damage or to have more survival rate or to get more wins, whatever the case may be. Just set a goal and work towards it. And with that, this is Pika. I appreciate you guys so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed, make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Take care.